Welcome to Social PR Secrets, the podcast. My name is Lisa Beyer, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Jamie Duklas. He is the Director of Marketing and Doing Good in the World for a company called Angelic Bakehouse, located in Wisconsin. Jamie started his career as a sports journalist and then transitioned into public relations and eventually into SEO, social media, and what today we call digital marketing. He has over 20 years experience, and one of the things that I love about Jamie is his philosophy of having to do something in order to understand it. In this episode, Jamie and I chat about public relations and the difference between how it was 15 or 20 years ago and some of the benefits that we have thanks to digital. Jamie also shares how Angelic Bakehouse turned to social goodness and helped serve 100,000 meals that were donated during COVID. We also chat about using video and platforms like TikTok and using Instagram stories for the win. Enjoy this episode with Jamie as much as I enjoyed interviewing him and learning so much. Namaste. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining another episode of Social PR Secrets. And I am here with Jamie Duklas, and he is the head of marketing for Angelica's Bakehouse. And did I pronounce that right?
Angelic Bakehouse.
Angelic Bakehouse. And you have been doing amazing things, not just at Angelic Bakehouse, but your whole career. And I've been digging deep in your history. What I love about your experience is that your very first, at least on LinkedIn, is that you started out as a journalist and then you were a PR intern and went into a little stint in public relations, which I think is just like an amazing foundation to where you are today. So can we start out talking about that and then kind of bring us to where you are today and what's happening?
Yeah, sports journalism, sports PR, that was kind of my initial passion. I was sports editor of the Daily Cardinal, fifth oldest daily collegiate paper at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I started out in sports journalism, kind of pivoted to sports PR, did that for a couple of years, and you kind of living the dream as far as like, if you love sports, like I met every professional athlete at that time, from like getting to like walk off Lambeau Field with Brett Favre to like help him to an interview room to meeting Michael Jordan. Got to meet a lot of athletes and be courtside, to be on the field at games. So it was a pretty cool experience. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to work 80 hours every week and I want to make some money.
Yeah. When I was, I have my degree is in public relations, but I was in the College of Journalism when I was trying to pick what you had to pick from different categories. I really wanted to go into journalism, but kind of the same thing. It was just like not paying a lot. So I decided to go into public relations. But I feel like a mix of journalism with public relations is really a winning formula. So how did that work for you going from that journalism base to public relations?
Yeah, it felt like a pretty natural transition. I knew what a journalism and what a journal person, like what they want to do, what a reporter wants to do. And the reality with sports PR, I mean, they're falling over. You like get access, so it's a very different part of PR. I'm more a gatekeeper than a door opener. Like I'm trying to, protect the athletes, make sure the athletes get put in the best light. Like getting the media coverage isn't the challenge; just getting the right media coverage is the job. So it's a very niche part of PR. But I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the opportunities where I actually like truly got to like wear the more traditional media pitching hat, like to be able to like pitch ESPN magazine on an article. So national publications who won't cover like the Milwaukee Bucks as much. So be able to pitch them and, find an interesting angle of like, hey, here, like we have the only player in the NBA who is from the Netherlands, Dad Gadzreach, want to interview him. And to be able to like get coverage like that was always, the big wins. That was exciting to be able to get some of those in my time in PR as well.
And I mean, a lot has changed since you were doing public relations. A lot has changed in the past 5 years in the PR world. So what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen, now that you're head of marketing, that you can do better with PR or that, is maybe not available today?
Yeah, I mean, from my initial time to now, I mean, it's digital. Like it's funny to think of it now because everything is digital. You can't not think of it. But looking back, in late 90s or early 2000s, it wasn't a digital world yet. Like athletes weren't on social media yet. Like social, Facebook was still a early 2000s, talking about like, a private company that was only for college students. Like that's what Facebook was at that point. I think MySpace was the primary social media. So to see how the world is changing, and that, now all brands do have their own platform, via social media, and what they can do on blogs and other formats, podcasting. It's amazing what brands can do almost in this brand journalism sense for themselves, and just all the very, very different ways you can make connections in this world. So it's just, it's a lot more complicated in one sense, but there's a lot more opportunities too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, one of the things that I've noticed just in the years, so I've been in, have had my own agency since it was, really just pre-digital and traditional, and then going through that transition and being able to right away kind of identify the opportunity with search and with Google and with Facebook and social media, and how you can be, your own brand journalist, and you don't have to go through the journalist as the gatekeeper. It was just such a breath of fresh air. I felt like public relations was, everybody was kind of doing the same thing. Everybody was calling the same journalists, and it just became, nothing changed in PR for like 50 years or 75 years, and now all of a sudden the past 10 years, we're at this explosion of opportunity. But as far as measuring, I mean, back in the day, measuring public relations versus today, how you measure, how do you speak to that? It used to be, at least the way I did it, was like clippings. We got this clipping, we have this clipping book. How do you see measurement with public relations today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously now you have all the big digital tools, and me, when it comes to how I hold my PR agency accountable, or PR partners accountable, honestly, I do it more subjective. Like I want to see all the impressions, and but I'm really about I want the big, like, juicy, meaningful hits. Like I want articles that are just about my brand, that are like getting down into like certain details of what makes our products special or unique. So I'm really more about the quality than the quantity, and really subjectively saying, yes, you nailed that one, and like just getting a couple of big hits throughout the year is what matters more to me. And I think also partners that find unique and clever ways to tell our stories, that's always exciting too. It feels like a great one.
Definitely. And I mean, speaking of media hits, I was just kind of looking up what's happened in the past 6 months, like since COVID. And so you guys have made some great, very positive and goodwill headline news, and the giving away, is it 100,000 meals that you've donated so far, or more than that? And tell us about how that came about, because I mean, people sometimes forget that it's not all about the brand, that it's also about the give.
Agreed. Yeah. So COVID has been a interesting and crazy time for us. Our business has exploded because of it. People are staying at home and making more meals at home. They're definitely buying a lot more bread for sure. So, and we're up at retail about 90%. Our e-commerce is up over 2,000%. And really, for me, in this time where I almost was feeling like guilty, like the world's falling apart, but like my life couldn't be better in one sense, as far as like business is exploding and we're doing really well. And like, it really was like, I felt a responsibility. Like, we have to find a way to give back when we're doing so well and others are struggling. Like, we got to find a way to give back. So that's really where it came from. It came from the heart. And then I was like, what can we do? And we developed this program called Loaf You, where we have a donation loaf on our website. Anyone can purchase it, and then we match and donate another loaf. So it's every donation, that's 2 loaves going to Feeding America. So I thought it was a great way for us to give back, a great way for our customers too. If they were just looking for, hey, how can I do something small to help those in need, they can contribute to it. So I love that it truly is a partnership with their customers, and the beauty of that, and how they've taken on that challenge and have been willing to help us donate more than we could on our own. And the fact that now in a little over 2 months we're able to get 100,000 meals donated to families in need is huge, and we're going to keep it going. I'm excited in the future to look at other partners too, and not just Feeding America, but find other partners so we can donate to other causes or other areas. But we love it, we believe in it, and it's going to be a permanent part of what Angelic Bakehouse is.
That's awesome. And one of the other things I was noticing when I just was looking at your history is that you you've really represented and worked within some amazing brands, like Uber was one of them. And, talk to us about like where you are today, and how besides the different brands and agencies and your experience and specialties, is just across the board so impressive. So it's not just, I see why you're the head of marketing, because you have that vertical, so many verticals that you've actually, worked on the front lines with.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's got me to where I am is embracing digital. So, truly when it came on board, because I started in the soft skills of marketing, communication, PR, writing, and I was, mid-20s, how do I grow my career? How do I differentiate my brand? And I was really struggling with it, because a lot of what you have is soft skills. It's hard on a resume to like put numbers down, how you impacted change, in that role. It was honestly hard to compete and stand out. And I knew it. I was frustrated. And as digital really became a thing, I was like, I'm gonna embrace this, and I'm gonna learn it from. Initially it really meant Google paid search and SEO, taking that on in the early 2000s. And then social media, as soon as like Facebook became public and there's brand pages, taking that on from day one. And it's kind of fun to like grow my career, just have my career start at the time when everything is blowing up, and to be able to be on the ground floor of like learning SEO when it was just becoming a thing. Same with like paid search when it was just becoming a thing, and then social media, and to know all those systems intuitively and know the past history of them. I think it really gives me an incredible knowledge set to continue to build and know how these things all work together. So the fact that I was willing to embrace digital now has helped get me to where I am. And now I have a resume that's full of numbers and full of great ways to show I have the impact and straight knowledge sets too, to be able to say SEO. Yeah, I know what that is. Various softwares, it's helped me differentiate and grow my career. And now that when digital is the thing, it's great to be in a leadership role and be able to use all these tool sets to my best of my ability and the best of the company's needs.
Yeah, your story is very parallel and similar to, so the person that introduced us is Sarah Collins, and Sarah started working with me at the Buyer Group right out of college. And it was right when, SEO was just coming on the kind of like the forefront, and social media was coming out, and we embraced it super early. And I can remember the day when Facebook released Facebook for Business pages, and Sarah and I were like, get our clients set up right away. And, back then you had to figure it out as it was unfolding. There wasn't a class to take. There wasn't, Facebook didn't have Facebook Blueprint like it does today.
Yep.
We were literally just, learning on our own and sharing what we knew with our clients and applying it as best as we could to content to optimize it. And I can remember, I'm interested to hear how you, besides learning on your own, like I went to a conference called Search Engine Strategies, and I felt like this was like back in 2006 or something. And I just wanted to learn from my clients. I wanted to learn PPC and not get like kind of screwed over, let my clients get screwed over by people just taking advantage. And, it just kind of was this like little, like, nobody really knew. So started going to these conferences, and I felt like, wow, I just got like a master's degree, an MBA in the past 3 days. And I totally get this. And what was did you have one of those kind of aha moments where you went to a conference or found a source that you really leaned on as your continued education?
For SEO, I don't know if you know Aaron Wall, but like it's SEObook.com.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was like, SEO, great, another digital skill set I can learn. I bought, his SEO book and like printed all the pages and putting it in a binder and like, learning it that way. And then I think ultimately, like everything in digital, you learn so much by doing. Like even when if there is a book for it or whatever, like the reality, it's going to change tomorrow.
Yeah.
The only way to intuitively get it and do it is you gotta learn by doing. It's got to be immersive. You gotta live it every day, because it will continue to change and evolve. And if you are living it every day, you're gonna see it evolve. Like you can kind of in some cases predict where it's gonna go, and that's incredibly powerful too. Because if you're ready to go there when it's going there, like things like Instagram stories. before Instagram stories was even a thing. I knew it was coming. I'm like, I know the history of what Facebook is, and Facebook doesn't invent most of social media; it steals it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
when there's Snapchat and another platform that's stories based and it's blowing up, I'm like, oh, it's only a matter of time before that feature ends up in Facebook and Instagram. So I remember coaching my team, like, start, even though we weren't on Snapchat, I'm like, start doing stories. Like, I don't think Snapchat's right for us, but guess what? It's going to come to Instagram. It's going to come to Facebook. And when it comes, I want to hit the ground running. Like, I know that they'll put a lot of free organic views there because they want to grow it. So if we're ready with a content calendar and I know how to do it out of the gates, we're going to get so much free impressions, so much free exposure.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest wins that come when you really are able to, like you said, hit the ground running and take advantage of that organic opportunity, because, those are few and far between, as you know. What we used to get in Facebook, what we used to get in Instagram, what we are getting now in LinkedIn is going to go away from an organic standpoint, and whatever, we have to see what's that next opportunity coming. So speaking of that, what are some of your favorite things about social media marketing right now, today in 2020?
I'd say, platform wise, I'm really heavily focused on Instagram. So we have a whole brand studio here. We have on staff a photographer and a designer. So I love what brands can do to really build things in house and control things. And I really believe that's probably the best way to create a very consistent and powerful brand voice. So I love what the platform, Instagram in particular, allows with it being so visually driven with photos and stories and videos, and just taking a challenge on and creating our content in-house and really developing a beautiful brand and another way to tell our story, another way of, like, as a CPG brand, to like truly connect with our customers. And then it's a lot more powerful than a tagline or some 15-second ad, that every day we're really adding to our brand voice and like this rich tapestry kind of format.
How do you feel about Facebook ads today?
All they care about more than anything else is they still perform for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things about the Facebook platform I don't like, from the politics to some of the things dirty deeds I believe they've done, and there's plenty of articles out there, about that, and I think a lot of choices where they chose money over doing good. So I have a lot of personally a lot of mixed feelings about Facebook, but as far as a marketing tool, it's incredibly powerful. Their algorithm and their ability to like find the right people for you and make things happen. And in our case, particularly, it's helping to grow our e-commerce. So it's a reality where you can't ignore the power of what it can do. So I'm gonna embrace it as long as it performs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it's it's one of those can't really live without it as part of your arsenal. And the fact that, like, I don't know if you've heard of the Facebook portal, but we have a Facebook portal, and sitting on my kitchen counter, and even when I'm not using it, I'm sure Facebook is actually using it to like find out what I'm talking about, in my kitchen, and serve me ads that I'm going to like. And I would rather get ads that are useful. So from a marketing standpoint, I love it. But from, the whole like kind of weird privacy thing, it's a little annoying.
Yeah, no, yeah. If most consumers knew how little privacy they have right now, I think they would be scared. Like I think it was a New York Times article probably a year ago now that said there's over 200 apps that like have access to your full location data, and they're either using it for themselves or selling it to a third party.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Like literally, like, now, in advertising, I can go out, I can partner with one of those mobile location companies like Factual and be like, tell me everyone that's been to this location in the last 6 months and serve them an ad.
Yeah.
It's crazy creepy that things you can do and the lack of privacy you have in this world.
Yeah. I was just listening to a Facebook continuing education, Facebook advertising course. And one of the things that was brought up was just that if you have the Facebook app on your phone and your email on your phone, that basically Facebook is reading all of your emails. They can see everything that, you're talking about to everybody. It's like, wow, crazy. One of the other things I was reading in your LinkedIn is just your experience with video. And I'm just curious where what are some tips that you can give when it comes to the use of video from a marketing standpoint, and maybe some do's and don'ts based on your experience.
Yeah, my biggest tip is, well, two, and they're very simple, but they're critical. Have good lighting because you cannot easily fix bad lighting in post, and have good sound. The same kind of kind of things, because if you want a good video, you need quality lighting first and foremost, and good sound. Unless, I suppose, if you're at a place like social where it tends to often be sound off environments. But outside of that, like you better get those basics right and dialed in, or you're going to have poor video. And I think be willing to have a level that's acceptable to you. Like, it doesn't have to be perfection out of the gate. I think learning by doing it is good, but do have a level of acceptability, because crappy video, no one wants to watch it, and it's not going to make your brand look good. So find what is a reasonable, acceptable level, whether it's looking at your competitors and what are they doing, or other aspirational brands. Find a level that's acceptable in quality, and then continue to strive for higher quality and learn by doing. But I think if you constantly expect perfection, you're never going to jump in. And at a certain point, you need to jump in and decide whether it's something we can take on site. I think knowing your limits is good too. Like if you just can't do it on your own, great. Find a partner. And in today's world, I mean, you can go on LinkedIn, and like I know a bunch of people here locally in Milwaukee who they have their own little video shop, and that's all they do. So like finding cost affordable video partners is not hard in today's world either. So I think there's truly no excuse whether you want to do it yourself or find partners that you really can get into it and discover the power of video.
Definitely. So how is video working with your content calendar today? Can you share some of the strategies, the way you're using videos with your brand?
Yeah. I think we look at all different aspects of video. So we create just fun, basic GIFs that can really be eye-catching and great for social media ads or just social media content. So we try to work those on a regular basis, and then a lot of our other video really is recipe focused, because it makes sense for what our brand is. And we're actually right now in the middle of a big project. We're looking at taking out of our existing recipes and have this master list of all those other recipes we want to create, and we're going to create a ton of new recipe content, including a ton of video. And just knowing, how that video can live not only on social media and stories, but also it's a permanent asset to be part of our recipes on our site, and then have it on YouTube and all the schema, recipe SEO, and the power of YouTube as far as a visual search engine. We're excited, like all the ways that this recipe video lives and grows and becomes a evergreen long-term asset for us.
So just for people that might not understand, or that the terminology, the schema SEO, can you just kind of go into that and how you use it for recipes? Like, for example, with Pinterest is probably one of them, but maybe just basically,
there's 13 different categories of it. I think it's called like micro data, whatever that Google's discovered they see as valuable. So they've called it schema, and you can go to schema.org to learn more about it. And it's just like any other part of SEO. It's instead of an H1 tag, in this case, it's the recipe name, so it's defined fields that if you put this tagging onto your site, you'll then potentially show up on Google. So when you're on Google and you search recipes, and there's a whole recipe section, or there are just recipes showing up and they have like details, like you see the star rating on there, or you see an image. All those things are happening because those companies have chosen to put the recipe schema on their site and detail everything out, from like cook time to prep time to the author of the recipe to the rating, all these little fields, and you put them on your site with your recipes, and then you have the chance to have that rich content serve up right on the first page of Google.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely. So if you're a brand that, you're publishing recipes, or recipes is part of your content strategy, definitely look into that if you're not already doing it. And speaking of recipes also, are you doing anything on TikTok with recipes? That's a big, kind of one of the big types of content that's working really well.
We are as well. We started a TikTok account a couple months ago, and it's an area where I've just given my team like freedom to play. I'm like, just find things to do. And yeah, recipes is one of them. And what I love about what we're doing on TikTok is then we find out like, okay, what more can we bring over to Instagram stories too? Because like there's no reason a lot of that content can't live on Instagram. So I think it's pushing us forward and innovating in ways we probably wouldn't otherwise without it. So I love that. We actually had a meeting today. I kind of termed brand entertainment, like in these COVID times. I love what a lot of brands are doing, from like, Mondelez just had a virtual prom with Steve Aoki, just finding what kind of more brand entertainment. And it sometimes can be simple as like drilling down into stories and just having like funny, clever stories that entertain your customers and bring in new fans and new customers. So it's something that, we love to do and are trying to grow.
Definitely. And one of the things where, we work with some of our clients on, if they don't have the resources to experiment on, let's just say TikTok, or, when it was Snapchat, back in the day when that was something to do. So it's just using the power of influencers on TikTok and letting them, get your brand the recipe attention. Are you doing anything with influencers and as far as part of your marketing?
Yes. Also, we have an ongoing influencer marketing program. So we have two things. One is a brand ambassador program, and those are currently 6-month arrangements. So we sign people up, they post for us every month. They're also meant to kind of be an always-on advocate. So they're commenting and engaging in our content. If people are talking about relevant topics like recipes, they bring up our brand. So we have that, and then we just do basically a product review program. So for other influencers, when we're not in a active cycle of bringing on more brand ambassadors, we offer a product review program where it allows us to kind of try before we buy on both sides. Mm-hmm. So we give them a couple products, and we're like, just give an honest opinion or an honest post about it. So it's a great way to bring in more people. It's definitely incredible for our content marketing. We definitely use a lot of our influencer content within our social media, and it's great to build up that library and make our lives a little easier.
Yes, for sure.
The content struggle is real. It's daily.
It's real. Yeah.
So it's nice to have that library built up, and we're lucky too that we use a powerful software called Aspirational. Not only does it help us find influencers, not only help us metric wise, really truly exceed, things like a cost per engagement, where like, someone with 100,000 fans is probably going to get you more impressions and more total engagement than someone with 10,000. But what's the true cost per engagement? So based on what you're paying them, how many engagements did they get you? So I love to be able to apples compare influencers. It also serves as a digital asset management. All of our influencer content is stored there permanently. So it's great that we don't have to like take, immediately try to like save stories or like,
that's great.
Pin things or highlight things. It's all just stored right there for us. And it's incredible because we're, all of a sudden you run into a thing like, oh, this photo shoot we're trying to do, it just didn't work out. And you can run to our Aspire IQ and quickly grab something we hadn't posted yet. Like, great, cool, we got to solve, we got content.
So do you look at influencer marketing as a public relations strategy?
I don't think we've done. I think it certainly can be. I don't think we've done a ton there. I mean, I would say in a sense it definitely is a overall relationship strategy. It's a great way to like have other people tell your stories for you, which is just like the media doing it. It's great to have other people doing that. So use it in that way. I think there's probably more we could explore, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know we're a little bit like going over the 30 minutes, but I just wanted to ask you a few more questions just about Angelic Bakehouse, the brand, as far as, today's consumer is very focused on health and wellness and nutrition, especially with COVID now. Everybody is, trying to protect themselves from their immune system to everything. So how does Angelic Bakehouse fit into that?
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most proud of is we're uncompromising. And for us, that means two things. It's using all the healthy, good ingredients we believe in, and we know you should eat, and really being that steward of helping you make sure what goes in your body truly is a good ingredient. And we're not trying to trick you. Like things like buying our non-GMO wheat from farmers in southeast Montana, where we know these guys and we know they're doing things right, and it's glyphosate free. So a lot of people may not know, but like the majority of wheat and oats out there are sprayed with Roundup, glyphosate, and it's once you spray it there, it's in the food. It's, you know, one of the worst things you can put in your body. So it's important that, you know, we have incredible sources of our raw ingredients, so we're putting great things in our food. And the other part is it has to taste great too. So we don't want to just make like, hey, this is the the best thing ever for you, but it's going to taste bland. You know, it's critical that it also tastes great. So that's truly the foundation of all of our innovation, is that we always want to have great tasting, healthy food out there. And when you do that and you do it consistently across your portfolio of products, you know, you become a brand that people can trust, a brand that really, really means something. And then it's great because you bring someone in on one product and you know they're going to naturally go to other products because they have a brand they can believe in. So when you build, you know, a brand that stands for something, it really becomes powerful and scalable.
Definitely. And so I looked on the website and where I could buy it near me and where your brand's near me. And so you sell at Whole Foods and Fresh Market and a couple others, but you also have a physical location in Milwaukee. Is that correct?
Technically, like, so in our plant, you can't, pre-COVID times, you could come in and,
okay.
and buy our product here at the manufacturing plant. So
okay.
In a sense, yes, but yeah, it's
Right
more
now,
something we do for the community than anything else. You know, we all have aspirations of like, wow, it'd be cool to like have an on-site cafe here, and maybe one day we will. But I got a lot more building to do before I get to that task.
Yeah, well, it looks like you guys are doing an amazing job just getting the word out and doing good. So, any social PR secrets, words of wisdom, like what would you give to digital marketers that, you know, might just need a little bit of a, you know, the wisdom that you have, the years of experience? Like what are like maybe the top 3 things that you could offer them?
Sorry, on what topic?
Just social PR, mixing social media and public relations, or just digital marketing in general.
Yeah. One thing I really believe in with social media is whatever category you're in, don't judge yourselves by, you know, your competitors. Find aspirational companies and judge yourself by that. Because I've, in both, you know, internally and on the consulting side, I've seen so many like brands claim like, well, we're the best in X category. And I'm like, that's nice, but candidly, you're crap. Like, go look at Starbucks feed, go look at, you know, Target's feed. Like,
yeah,
you know, aspire to more. Don't aspire just to be the best in your category, especially if your category is pretty poor. And it's pretty amazing in CPG how many brands have still not to this day embraced social media. Like they have accounts, but you're like, man, I would cringe if I was managing that account. It's it's full of stock photography and it's awful and it doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah. Or the only way is up. if you know,
Yeah.
You can only go for improvement. What are some aspirational brands that you turn to?
That for inspiration, so yeah, things like I mentioned, so Starbucks, Target, you know, we've been getting inspiration. Like we just stuck in a meeting we had today, Bon Appetit, you know, we're just like looking at some of the things they're doing. So it comes in all forms. So, you know, sometimes just go over to certain hashtags and see what's going on those hashtags. But it's something I definitely believe in overall, and is constantly challenging yourselves to get better, to, you know, to be iterative, to get better, and never assume in anything you're doing that you're doing it the best way. If you assume that you can do it better, you will be better, and you'll challenge yourselves to and typically too, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, in this digital world, you know, find brands that are doing it right and find your twist on it. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll allow you to move a lot faster and a lot smarter.
Definitely. How do you keep up with everything that's going on and all the changes that, you know, with Facebook and in the digital marketing world? What are some sources that you rely on as your credible sources?
One, I think just using the platforms. You know, I at this point, honestly, intuitively see a lot what's going on just by using the platforms. You know, looking at what the ad creative is. I actually like don't really use social media personally that much. I'm actually like scrolling through, looking for ads or looking for brand content.
Yeah, I know
more
the
than
feeling.
anything else. And then I'm immediately thinking like, you know, why did they do that? You know, like, you know, and what's the clever hook? Like, they did that, like, 'cause man, that would have stopped my thumb. And why did it stop my thumb? how can I apply that? So that's really how I deploy it. It's incredible also how much I learn from LinkedIn. Like a lot of the articles I read that I end up loving, like, oh, I'm so glad I read that, come from scrolling LinkedIn. So it's not something I did years ago, but the last couple of years, I really find myself actually like opening up LinkedIn and just scrolling through the feed, because I'm thankfully following and connected to so many smart people, and they're thankfully sharing these great articles that I think, my best RSS feed or, source of like great articles often is, LinkedIn. And I also purposely will connect people that I don't know, but I respect, because I actually want access to their feed more than anything else. Like I want their content in my feed because they're going to make me smarter.
Yeah, definitely. Do you believe in certifications when you're hiring, for your marketing team, or, looking to outsource? Does it make a difference? Do you look at that as far as like, okay, this person is qualified and this is why? How can you tell? It's you can really doctor up a LinkedIn profile today.
Yeah. It depends by the channel. Like, the Google certifications, I believe in those, and like, AdWords and some of those other programs, they're pretty tried and true. Like, they're adding new things, but like the majority of what they have is there. If it's some kind of third party certification, it honestly means nothing to me. Like, I don't know what was involved in it or what you truly learned. But if it's certified right, right from the company like Google, I believe in those. Facebook to a little bit, but also, Facebook, I feel like it's so much left brain, right brain. You have to be able to have the creative mix, and the technical know-how. And a piece of paper is not going to tell me if you have it. A conversation will.
Yeah, definitely. And one last question. So how do you keep yourself strong and less stressed in 2020?
First off, I'm thankful to have a great job. Like, I'm thankful to have a busy job that really helps keep my mind off a lot of things it could be on. So I'm thankful for that. I have a great wife and 2 young kids at home. So I have a pretty full life. Like, free time is not a luxury I truly have, which is probably good, because, in the times I do have free time, I think I do get anxious, whether it's about the world or about like, hey, it's summer, like, I want to do all these things. Oh, but 2020 is canceled and I can't do all these things. So I think, just having that and the perspective it brings is probably the biggest thing, above all else. And I think also then realizing that even though it feels like this is never going to end, it truly is a moment in time, and this too shall pass, and try not to get overwhelmed or sucked into the moment, and just realizing, yes, this sucks, but we're all in it, and just take a breath and try to move forward.
Great. That's great advice. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. And where would be the best social channels to follow you and Angelic? And
yeah, so for me personally, LinkedIn by far is the place that I live and breathe professionally. So I welcome anyone to connect with me. I'm definitely open to connecting with great marketers. And then for Angelic Bakehouse, we're everywhere. Instagram Instagram and Pinterest, I'd say, are the heart of of what we do socially. But we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and now TikTok as well.
Great. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely follow you, and we'll go buy your products in Whole Foods and Fresh Market.
Yep.
And follow you on social.
If you give it a try, that's the biggest thing for us is we deliver unexpected good taste. You look at our label and you're like, I know it's going to be good for me, but I'm cringing at what's going to taste like. And you taste it and you're like, wow, it actually tastes great. So that's the beauty.
Well, your Instagram feed was making me want to just go out and buy it and make all those recipes because everything looks so good. So
good. Then we're doing something right then.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. Namaste. I really appreciate it. And we will catch up with you hopefully in another episode.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Social PR Secrets. If you like what you heard, check out the book on Amazon or follow our blog at socialprsecrets.com. This episode was sponsored by the Buyer Group, a social PR agency striving to keep our balance in the digital world, practicing public relations, social media, and search marketing, while occasionally drinking a glass of wine or two for the best creativity and results. Thank you all for tuning in. If you would like to get a free chapter of Social PR Secrets, go to socialprsecrets.com/free.